Welcome everybody to the Innovate-A-Thon podcast, where we cover everything going on in the world of innovation, creativity, workforce advancement, entrepreneurial thinking, and enabling the next generation to do good in the world. We'll be exploring interesting topics with mentors, students, and innovators who are shaping the future of innovation. So today we have a special guest, Kevin Falk. So I won't go into him too far yet, but Kevin Falk has been a great mentor, judge for us for Innovate-A-Thon, and I'm really excited at the opportunity to bring him here on the podcast today and go into a really great topic. Before we do that, I'm going to give quick introductions. So Natalie, if you want to go first.
Hi guys, I'm your other co-host. I'm Natalie. I focus on PR and outreach at Innovate-A-Thon. I've been with the company for about 3 years now. I started as an intern and I've just grown my time with the company since then and my position. It's a wonderful company where I've had the chance to learn about innovation, entrepreneurship, and what it is to learn about business. And so it's a really great company that I love to work for.
All right, thanks, Natalie. Just a little bit of background on me. So I'm Steven Smetzik. I'm the director for the Innovate-A-Thon program. I have a varied background in engineering, entrepreneurship, and starting my own business, and also in 3D printing, innovative new products, general product development, also being a part of workforce advancement through another nonprofit that I helped start, and really leading me to now being a part of this great program, kind of bringing together all those things and all of the people that have founded the program, like Jim Gendrick, bringing together that engineering entrepreneurial mindset and really helping develop out this 4-stage program that sees students go through this transformation of taking all of these 4 stages, identify, ideate, improve, and implement, and really coming up with great outcomes and great new ideas. So without further ado, I'll give Kevin Falk the floor. Give us a little bit of your background, and so happy to have you here today.
Well, thanks, Steve and Natalie, for the opportunity of talking here today. Steve introduced himself to me a few years ago. I was a professor at Boise State, which I currently am now, I'm a adjunct professor. And I've been an industrial designer for 40 years of my life. I graduated from Art Center College of Design in Pasadena, and then went on and worked for various companies all around the world. One of my highlights was I designed the interior of Air Force One, the President's plane. And so some really neat opportunities being in the design field. And then as you see behind me here, there's 3 HP printers, and I spent 27 years of my design career working for them. And so I've been since retired, and a bunch of things happened in my life. About 16 years ago, I was in a motorcycle accident, and it's kind of changed the direction and my history and my future. And I lost my leg in the accident, but now I've connected this. I'm talking to you here now because of that accident. And so I'm pretty blessed and honored to have this be a part of it. So love to sit there and talk to new students and to encourage and to get them to participate in solving problems for individuals, people all around the world, and whatever it might be. And so again, thanks for this opportunity.
Awesome. Well, again, Kevin, thanks for coming. And I think too, we haven't known each other for a whole long time, but just in the amount of time that we've interacted, it's just been great to kind of have your perspective. And I really appreciate your opinion and your background and everything that you bring to students, because I think they get different professors and different perspectives at university, but your perspective and really bringing that industry experience is something pretty special, and getting that viewpoint, because a lot of engineering students can go, head down, log into all of their other coursework, and then they don't really get the full perspective of the other parts that are important, like industrial design, like user-centric design, really understanding it's not just, solving a problem, but it's solving a problem for somebody. It's trying to find a fit for where that should be, and really looking at it from a different perspective. So all the great things, us talking to, and I think as I've gotten to know you a little bit better, talking to you just about prosthetics and orthotics, and really getting your feedback from that perspective, because you've been a user of prosthetics now since your accident, and you've gone through a lot of different prosthetic sockets and a lot of different components, and you've really got that both sides of the perspective, and it's been super great to just talk with you about it directly, and then to see you kind of share it with the students in the program. So again, I just want to say thank you for all your help this year before we go into more, because it's just truly, we're truly honored to have you in the program and being a part of everything. So
being a part of it. So thank you.
Yeah. So today, kind of the main topic we were going to talk through, and I think it's, pretty relevant. It's something that I think you and I have talked through, and I've seen you talk with students. It's really looking at user-centric design, and more specifically, empathy and empathetic design towards when you're thinking about a solution, not just designing it for yourself, designing it for that person that's going to be the final user, that's going to be the one experience it over a longer period of time, and really building it for them and not for you or for somebody else. So, I kind of just want to get your perspective, and we can talk through your background too of, designing for things like Air Force One and for HP, and kind of, your journey. And I know industrial design just in itself, that's kind of built into, what you're taught, and maybe just talking about, your perspective and how it's been, reinforced, that empathetic part of it, maybe starting there. So.
Okay. I've been talking at Boise State for about 7 years now. I was basically brought in to talk about what we're talking about now, that understanding of people with disabilities and how to work around them and do things for them. But I've been doing that pretty much my 40-year career. Like I said, I look at the printers behind me, and I always wanted to make sure I do the right things for the customer or the client. And I never forget that those font sizes on those printed out things, instructions, the font size, never go smaller than 11 point. It doesn't matter who we are. We don't have the best eyesight, especially as I get older. It's harder to see things. And I know some young designers out there in magazines, teeny tiny font, but it's really hard to read and see. And so that just always stuck with me about HP and making sure we had a minimum of readability for what we're trying to get across. And so for many years, I tried to do the right thing for the customer. And so over the years, there's just been a lot of things, and I thought I was good at it, but I really didn't realize until I became an amputee, that's a whole different world. And I don't expect anybody to really understand it the way I do. I try to tell my students to go sit in a wheelchair for a day, or try to pretend your arm doesn't work, or put some blindfolds on. And so I try to use the real world examples to get a designer and engineer to understand what to do. And so basically, user-centered design and voice of the customer. Empathy, the ability to understand and share the feelings of another. And empathetic design, a user-centered design approach that pays attention to the user's feelings and experience towards a product. And so I go over this, and I know Innovate-A-Thon has their design cycle and process, and I have it broken down to a few things: observation, idea generation, prototyping, testing, and then empathy, almost as a phase. But you look at the big picture, empathy need to be a part of every one of those things. When you observe, you need empathy. When you generate ideas, you need empathy. When you prototype, you really can understand the empathy of physically how you react or feel to it, and testing it. And so empathy is such a big part in what we do in all types of design, and just need to understand what we're trying to design, who and for. We all have different perspectives in this world. Being male and female is different. Right-handed or left-handed is different. Your race, your culture, your upbringing. There's just so many things that we're different, and different customs, that we really need to understand that to make sure we're doing the right thing for different people.
Yeah. And I think too, I was just going to add like my background too, and you've done a little bit aircraft interior wise too, but when I went in there, like having this idea of being very mechanical minded and a thing works like this and works like that. And then the first time you go and design something, and then, somebody asked me the question, would a 95th percentile male even fit in that area? Things like that. It's I didn't, I basically excluded a whole population percentile by designing them out of it. So that was kind of my eye opening. It's okay, you're deep down in the weeds, you're engineering something, you're starting to come up with designs and things like that. But then, really understanding like there has to be all types of people that have to be able to use it, or if it's really specifically for somebody in particular, really understanding like their needs and what they're going to need out of it. I think too the prosthetics and orthotics side. So that's a lot of our interaction too, and really having that perspective. Like I'm a little bit squeamish too of like going to the doctor and like interacting with people and like really getting that perspective where the clinician in a lot of the cases for medical products, they have to, I don't want to say have the same mind, but they have to be kind of in with the client in a way that they understand how they're going to use it, like what is kind of like the maintenance and what is the experience that's going to make them want to either really enjoy it or come back and complain a whole bunch. And so that kind of perspective too. And I think just in our interaction, just us talking and seeing you walk around, and like I think one of the first things that's like stuck in my head when I started talking about below and above the knee amputees, and then you told me the below the knee amputees, they have it easy. And and then as soon as you said that, and then you started talking through it, it occurred to me like how much like just by taking away your knee functionality and by not having that aspect, how that just drastically changes like that whole entire like use of the prosthetic, and you don't as somebody that doesn't even know like what are the differences between above and below the knee amputation and like what are the needs for it, that's it's super eye-opening just to have those distinctions and really get a good understanding of what has to go into the differences between those. So
for me, what was like really eye-opening was the fact that he said that you need to have empathy at every stage of the innovation process, because I wouldn't have thought of that until recently. Like right now I can't use my leg at all because I just had ankle surgery. So there's so many different things that like go through your mind when you're like, dang, I can't use my leg. Well, there's so many barriers that you don't think about until it's actually like taking away the ability to walk and to jump and to do everything that you normally do. Like you wouldn't think like, oh, going up the stairs is such a hassle for so many people who like they have to go and put their leg on, or they have to go and like get their chair and go up there, or like so many different things like driving. Like all these factors come into play with how it affects people, and it's not just on like one level where it's just like a disturbance to your daily walking or something like that. Like it affects with you on like many levels, like emotionally, physically, mentally. So to take that empathy into consideration, I think is one of the really big parts of it.
And what's interesting, guys, is that come Wednesday I have a meeting with my orthopedic surgeon. I'm getting meniscus tear replacement Friday of this week, and it's going to be new to me. What can I do with wearing a prosthetic leg such as this, or what's the doctor going to tell me what I cannot do? I think it's going to be a learning experience for him too. I don't know if he's ever done PT before, and then have him on the other leg. How am I going to recover and do that? So there's all these new things that we really got to understand. And I even threw a meeting with my prosthetists in between my Wednesday and Friday meeting to talk with them to try to come with a good solution for safety for me, and then in good recovery time. And so those are all these unknowns that we need to prepare and just try to figure out as we figure out these solutions for things.
Yeah, I'm sure it's that whole other factor too. That it's just, and you know now the things that can go wrong, or at least a good. But then as soon as you bring in another element like this, it's like what else could go wrong? And it's really getting your team together, right? Your team of people that are going to be the ones that you put your heads together and you plan out like what's going to happen, what are the best scenarios, and that's
because what was my good leg now was a bad leg for me. Now it's a bad leg again, and I hop around on this thing a lot, but I'm not going to be able to hop around a leg that just had surgery on it. Yep. And so those are the things that there's solutions. I got crutches, I got wheat walkers and things like that, but I just want to make sure I'm doing the right thing.
Yeah. Well, I do want to say, good luck and all that. And I know, like I said, you have experience, and you know all these things. But yeah, at the same time, it's always trying to plan, I guess, for the future. And I think too, that's like as a college student, like coming into like our program, or students that you teach too, we can get so focused in our time, circumstance, and what's going on, and then it's until you have to start doing that, like you go out and get a job in actual life, and then have to start planning things, or you become an amputee, and there's these life changes that start to kind of propel you in different directions too. And I think too, the great interaction too with the students, and through the prosthetics Innovate-A-Thons that we've done this year too, has been really great to see that too, because in all their other classes, and they do a pretty good job at Boise State University bringing in all the other elements, and you do a great job too. But really, bringing in that, where are you going to go? Like there's an implementation step that happens down the line, that something's going to have to happen, and you're always going to be in this cycle, right, to improve on it. But how do you get that best? Like you come up with lots of good solutions, you narrow it in based on the user experience, base it on where the best fit's going to be, and really move forward with the best possible implementation. You're never probably going to get it right. It's going to be it's going to be consecutive over time, where you, like I said, you're kind of going through this iterative cycle and getting better and better as you're improving. But it really becomes like apparent that you get to a better spot eventually, so that somebody that needs to wear a prosthetic to do work and to be able to have it for a longer period of time and not have to worry about it, and then basically hinder their whole entire lifestyle after that. That's a whole nother thing. Like bringing in not just designing a product and something that sits on a shelf and somebody's going to as a consumer get it and just use it, maybe throw it away. Prosthetic is thinking about the whole like life cycle of a person in context of a product, which is, I don't know, like it's been a great experience for me too. I've grown a lot like going through this process again too, of just working with students, them really bringing ideas to the table, and then seeing you as a mentor and others bringing those other perspective, like the clinical perspective too, and really having that well-rounded, like best chance that you have of bringing in not a biased opinion too far one way or another, still understanding that the user is the most important, but getting a good, well-rounded kind of team around you. And I think too that we try to get better and better in that through the program. We've had a lot of engineers this year, but bringing in good perspective too from the teams, having good people around them. Because, as you're talking through it too, like, oh, my orthopedic surgeon, you basically have to bring him into your team, get him familiarized with the situation, and they have to pretty quickly, you have to come together to come up with these solutions, because it's part of your lifestyle, and it's going to, affect things. So, just.
And sometimes I think that just because I got a $57,000 leg assembly, a socket, a foot, and mechanical knee, that my life is all better. That's not the case. There's got to be this conjunction of all these things coming together to make the socket fit, the leg work just right, the footwork work right. And I'm very fortunate. I was 48 years old, and my body had pretty much settled down when I got into this. You go back to a 3-year-old kid that has his first prosthetic. I've gone through maybe 20 or 30 different sockets in my 16-year history of this. And so I really haven't changed much. But I never really realized and think about what it's like for a young person to have to go through this and deal with it and get it right every year, year after year after year. Mm-hmm. So those are the things we just got to be aware of, that just because the person has a leg or an arm or whatever it might be, doesn't mean instantly their life is going to be better. There's just a big process with it.
Yep. I think that also kind of brings back into play like the empathy of it all, because it's very easy, like for a doctor, for like somebody who is prescribing the leg or like giving it to you, to be like, this is going to help you make your life all better. But it's also like dealing with that loss of like, you can't get that leg back. Like you're not going to be able to do certain things. Like even if you have a prosthetic leg, like there's still certain things you are missing out on that you wouldn't normally be able to. So I think it's still like about having the empathy in every situation is very important across the board. Like to just continually kind of empathize where you can and show that like you might not understand, but it is something that you're like willing to learn about.
Yeah, exactly.
And yeah, kind of just adding to, and Kevin, you're a parent too, and like just imagining like one of your kids like having to like grow up and experience that, and like if that's not thinking about empathy in it in the deepest sense, like because I think too, like my oldest has gone to occupational therapy and some other things for tiptoeing and some of these other behaviors and things like that, and like that was even a lot at the time, and just amplifying the fact that if you had to go through this as a young person, and it has to become part of your whole entire life all the way through, and then all these phases and things that change over time. Yeah, to me it seems like a lot, and being able to take all of that understanding and like pull it back, really connect and feel towards that person. I don't know, it's a great thing. Like any of the programs that we do, we've tried better and better to bring in these good causes, to do better for the world, to do better for others, as we're going through this. And I don't know, it's been a great privilege to just bring in these situations and really, dig down into the core of what's going on. So,
and I think having empathy just opens up your mind and your thought process a lot more, because so many times I go into a project, I think, oh, I have the solution. This is the best idea. This looks the best. I know this, but a lot of times we get locked in on ideas that really aren't responsible, or they aren't the right thing. And so having empathy opens our mind, keeps our mind open to where we can really look at the big picture and try to come up with a better solution, and we can communicate more. Empathy, when you communicate with your coworkers and whatever it might be, is pretty important. So just generally in life, empathy is so much better to make the world run.
Definitely.
I agree.
Yeah. So I think, this has been a great conversation, and like I'm going to kind of segue a little bit over. I'll give it a little bit of background too. So yeah, the journey for me, and we talked about this before, with orthotics and prosthetics. Like I knew a little bit about it before. It's the funniest part when you don't know about orthotics and prosthetics and explaining it to somebody else and the differences, and it's coming to know what are all the fine things that happen between what people call just a brace and being able to fully replace somebody's limb. And those are drastically different things on a spectrum, and being able to handle those. There's people that are just orthotists, or people that are just prosthetists, and that's their core. There's a lot that are crossover, but there's just so many things in between there. And then I started on the orthotic side of understanding more that, it's not just a brace. There's lots of different devices that do very specific things. There's people that have the background and expertise, or even, very specific anatomy and parts of the body, versus upper extremities and lower extremities. And that, more and more just understanding like, wow, this is not what I, not what I thought. And then too, just being a new father, and having gone through, having babies and all of that fear and everything that goes with it. And then we had a project come across, that we were working on, that involved babies and cranial orthotics. And so yeah, when babies are born, their heads, because they're soft, and when they are born, their heads can become basically misshapen in different directions. There's a lot of different classifications just on the type of direction, basically, that their heads go elongated, or how it diagonally. I'm not going to even attempt to say any of the names because I'll butcher them. But just starting to understand, this is a whole orthotic in itself that really takes a lot of expertise, knowing how to basically correct a baby's head into a nominal correct position over time. And yeah, really great. It was one of those projects where I felt deep empathy for the first time. I'd worked on things before, trying to work back from the user. And like I mentioned, thinking about percentiles, but then really understanding there's a baby and then there's parents that are involved in it. And it's really taxing and emotional, the whole entire, they got to bring their baby in. The baby's got to put a sock on its head, and it's got to get scanned, in a large 3D scanner. That in itself is just a traumatic event.
Yeah, just like watching that, I'm sure
Yeah.
like bring your baby into the doctors, you're like stressing out, all scared, not knowing what's gonna happen. So
Yeah, and I think too, like, and the great part of it though is like you start diving into it, and then you really become a part of like that empathetic process of just like, I really want to do a good job of understanding all of these different aspects that go into, what the parents are thinking, what are they thinking about, for the child and what's best for the child. And so that part of it too, like, sad to say, I didn't get to go, see a whole bunch of babies or anything. Like, I probably would have turned into a big ball of goo and been become a big softie even more so. But I think, yeah, for show and tell, I just want to kind of bring this in and kind of show it. So this is for working on the project. One of the things we got was a baby calendar. And so this even has in the back a little bit, talks about like the different head shapes and things like that. And I wanted to show that too. So that's actually like the sock that they put on the baby's head when they go to scan.
that's so cute.
These are all different head shapes. And and then, yeah, we'll do this one. And then these are all just the different design elements that are brought in per kind of like what the parents are thinking. This is very traditional thermoform plastic type product. And what I was working on was trying to figure out new manufacturing methods to, create this. But this was just a really great, empathetic project that, I was a part of, and really starting to go down that journey of where, like, I wanted to keep being a part of these projects because of how much it means, to the person that's using it. So
Yeah.
this is my fun show and tell item. And then of course to everybody, this time of year, we're thinking about babies and
I know.
that because of the season. So I figured this was good to bring in this and kind of show off and talk about and really have a better appreciation of like a type of orthotic, that changes people's lives, parents and lives.
For a more positive way.
And Stephen, and you think, still being designers and engineers now, when I went and had my MRI done to look at my leg here to go on the surgery, I went to an MRI and I'm sitting there and that big thing's whirling and the sound's going. I thought about little kids and little babies. It frightened me. And I think, how do you better? And I know they do a lot of different things. They put graphics and things on the front and moon, suns, all that stuff. And so we always just can't think about ourselves and our current age or whatever it might be as being designers and engineers. We got to solve from all levels of experiences that somebody goes through just at a head cap.
Yeah. And that is too, the whole clinical interaction. That's like all the way from where you very first talk about like, what are the expectations to going and getting, scanned or MRI'd, to that first fitting visit, to like, there's just so many touch points, like, and you as a designer, engineer, or technical person on a project thinking about incorporating all this, you have to look at it, all those touch points, like through it to try to make the whole experience better, right? So
exactly. And that's what I want my students, I want them to be aware of that from the very cradle to grave of that project. I want everybody to experience, even when they throw it away, whatever it might be, I want them to understand the cause and effect that they had on the world. And so that's important to really get that into young students' minds to say, come on, think about the big picture, guys.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think too, on the lighter side of it too, the part too that I, as an engineer, never really understood, and then you have to incorporate, especially, something like this, is that there is a visual element too. Like, it is a clinical thing, like it's a device, but there's also, a person or a parent behind it. And they really want to add, like, there's, a personality and like, likes, dislikes, that type of thing. And the fun designs and things like that too, that kind of go on those and that interaction, the back and forth. And I think too, you can get very caught up in like what the device is, but that's not like the everyday. It's kind of like how you're feeling as like a person and like portraying, how you're feeling. And I wanted to use this as a segue too, because I know you wanted to do show and tell of just, a lot of people too that, wear a device, they are very protective of it and they don't want to show it. But then others, embracing it, and it's kind of understanding both those sides. And as I got to know you you're very embracing. You're very embrace what you have, and I think you wanted to kind of show one of your legs, and you kind of held up there for a second, but I wanted to make sure that we showed it.
Well, thanks, Steve. And 16 years ago, when I was first in the hospital, just getting my leg had just been removed. And I didn't know what it was going to be like to be an amputee. And I had this girl come in, and she had this foam-colored, natural skin-looking leg. I thought that's what I wanted to do. I want to hide that I'm an amputee. I don't want people to see that I'm an amputee. I probably wore long pants in the last 16 years, maybe 50 times. I am very proud of who I am and what I am. And being a designer, I had an opportunity. I was one of the last folks with Bespoke, a company here or in San Francisco. And so I created this leg that illuminates, and I represent the Boise State Broncos. And this is my game day leg. And so
That's so cool.
I'm very proud of being an amputee, and I want people to acknowledge that. I don't want people to hide from stuff that they really have to. And so start a little business to maybe do just decorative coverings for people to show them off. And so again, the personalization of what we can do with our disabilities or whatever it might be to make you feel good and proud about yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And it helps in a year when Boise State's doing pretty darn good, also as another fact. Another extra reason to show it off. Yeah.
They're not doing so good, you slap the other team on there.
No, you're not allowed to.
Go Broncos.
Well, cool. No, yeah. So I think with that, I'll kind of give, a little bit of outro here. So I just want to thank Kevin for you coming on today. We really appreciate you taking the time to talk through your background, to talk through this topic. Again, thank you so much for just being a part of our program too, and bringing all of this to the program, because it means so much to our team, it means so much to the students, and it means a lot too for, the results and the outcomes that come out of the program too, and really trying to make, a difference in what we're doing. So again, if I don't know how many times we'll say it different ways. Thank you so much for everything that you've done through the program so far. Thank you for just being a great part of this. And thank you for coming on the podcast and taking time with us. So
Thank you as well. It was good to talk with you.
No, thank you guys. And I look forward to the opportunities of doing more of this. So